Question: who's coaching you? Who's asking you the tough questions? Who's telling you, man, you're the common denominator to all of your issues and challenges? Who's telling you, man, all day long you become the magnetic pulse that attracts to you both good and bad? I want to be your life coach. I want to be the one that cheers you on to the finish line. I want to be the one that you ask the tough questions. And it doesn't mean that I have all the answers, but that means that you have a partner, someone who believes in you, not the you see right now, but the you can't imagine, the you that you are to become, the you are destined to be. I always say we both need the positive and the negative. It's not enough to have the knowledge of the matter, but we must have the wisdom as well. For wisdom settles it. And that's what I want to offer you as you join me on the Coach's Corner. I want to offer you the wisdom of the matter. Maybe it might be relationships, talking about our campaigns for more, for life, the dark room of our subconscious, our spiritual journey. Whatever it is, I want to be there to encourage you, to build you, to challenge you, to cheer you on to the finish line. I'm qualified to do this. Why? Because I'm you.
Well, welcome aboard. My name is Marcus Salette. Assuredly, I have issues both personally and professionally, but I am gravitating towards excellence. How about that? And I bring to the table the wisdoms and the understandings, perhaps the scars, if you will, of my past, so that you don't have to suffer needlessly, at least regarding the mistakes that I know about. If you're going to suffer because you're suffering on your own accord, mistakes that you made that you never had any advice about. But don't suffer on the account of the things that we talk about daily here on the Coach's Corner show that you could readily avoid. Today we're going to talk about parenting. Parenting is about changing you and developing them. And the essence of it is parenting is not about us as adults. Changing adults and developing the children. And a lot of our parenting skills have to improve and have to change. But if we look at everything through the lens that the whole experience of parenting is to grow you so that your child will develop. So both get something out of it. One grows, the other one develops. How about that? Welcome to the Coach's Corner. Welcome and welcome again to what we do every morning, every evening, every afternoon. The Coach's Corner. If you haven't heard, then join in the fight. The fight for more, for life, and so much more. And so let's just talk for a few minutes about the power of a parent. The power of a parent is significant because you have the ability, I have the ability to shape life. I'll just pause right there on purpose. Shape life. Now I realize and understand and have come to grips with that most or many people are not living the normal parental life. The normal parental life is that you're married, that you have another partner, particularly a husband, particularly again a man in this situation. I know the culture is pushing back on the traditions that we hold dear. I know it's becoming now almost blasphemy to hold on to anything traditional when it comes to relationships in America. But ideally, originally, if I might add, parenting was for two, male perspective and female perspective. But we have so enjoyed ourselves throughout the ages that we have been able to cipher out how to make it work for ourselves without a partner. I don't know how we got here. The statistics show that children that come from single-parent homes are much more likely to not graduate from school, high school, much more likely not to attend college, much more likely to be in poverty. Now, I know that you're going to, send me some emails and you're going to blow up my phone and you're going to tell me, but there's this person and there's that person, but there are exceptions to the norm. What we don't see in the news and what we don't hear on a regular basis and what we are not flooded with statistically is the fact that parenting as a single person is hard as hell. That's what we don't hear. We hear the glamour stories after it's all over, after the child has left home, signed the contract, raking in millions, rapping about it on YouTube, and also touring your city, and all of a sudden now it's okay? No, it's not. We need all the help we can get to develop kids for life. We need all the help we can get. And so if you're one of those individuals that says, I can do this, you can. But it takes a village to develop a child. It is unfair to society, who pays the taxes when that child is incarcerated, who pays the taxes when that child is in juvenile hall, if you will, who pays the taxes if that child has to go through some kind of mandatory sentencing from the state courts or the municipalities there where he or she may live. So I feel that it's unfair for us as parents to take our jobs less than serious in developing our children, which requires us to change. See, that's the catch. That's the catch right there. To develop another requires a changing you. To develop another requires a changing you. If you want to develop someone else, you must be on a change track, because development simply means, without going deep into some grammatical professional definition of it, development simply means appropriate for the season, the age, appropriate play, appropriate nutrition, appropriate, the balance to develop, not to be deformed, retard, or outside, if you will, the norm of evolving and developing normally. That's a whole nother argument too. What are the norms? They got a show called The New Normal, and the norms are being defined for us. The norms are being defined for us. And so what I try to do with my show is I'm trying to bring you back to the psychological center. The principled fact that a changing you is the only way to develop anyone, let alone a precious, more likely innocent child. And we're not so willing to change. We're not so willing to look at ourselves. We're not so willing to give up our way. See, when you change you, there's some things you have to give up. I'm not talking about your ability to work 2 jobs. I mean, that might not be a sacrifice for you because you're showing off too much. You know what I'm saying? It's when you're working 2 jobs and you've got to be at the child's game. And so you will and deal to be at the child's game no matter what. Or when you're involving that child into, the Civil Air Patrol or the Sea Cadet, Navy Sea Cadet program or the Boy Scouts. And no matter how hard you work, you take him there and you're there to pick him up and you're there for the discussion and you're there for the planning. That may be a challenge or two, and not push it off on your other friend, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife to do. But a changing you develops them. I was not so fortunate to be alienated from the development process under what is called the norm. I realized later in life that most of the people in my age group went through horrendous, strict parental guidelines. I mean, my parents just didn't play, you know. I mean, walking around with your t-shirt off in the house was a no-no, and not saying yes sir and yes ma'am was absolutely ludicrous, and spare time being, you know, spent on nothings was not tolerated, and on and on and on and on. And all while it's good to be strict, and while it's good to give structure and guidance, and be somewhat rigid at first, and, you know, learn to loosen later, but I'm not talking about rigidity. I'm not talking about per se parental structure per se. I'm really talking initially about the inside change of a parental process, the inside change of a parent, the inside change, where you realize that this child is getting ready to go, or these children, if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, want to raise them show enough so they all get to heaven. You see what I'm saying? But I mean, if you're going to raise a precious child, they're going to enter in multiple phases of development, and we don't want to hinder, hamper, or cause, as we are doing in our society, our children's development to be arrested. We are causing our children's development to be arrested. And we're telling our child's development, you have a right to be silent. And anything you say will and can be used against you. This is what we're saying to the child's developmental opportunities. The child hasn't a chance, because we want change as adults. We still want to have the feel of our youth. So we can't stop clubbing. We can't stop, you know, sexing. We can't stop multiple partnerships without accountability or responsibility. We can't stop, talking about the adults now, can't stop booty calls. I'm just going to call it like I see it. We can't change. We can't settle. And then we wonder why the child is messed up. Well, children are maturation. Children are a manifestation of our environment. When are we going to get that? If you raise a child around a bunch of horses, the child's going to grow old and going to maturate towards its own interests, perhaps, but horses going to be in the picture somewhere. I guarantee you that. You raise a child around a bunch, especially if horses brought great dopamine type chemical releases within the developing child brain of a child. You raise a child around, my father raised us around the same radio station. The same radio station for 20-something years, still playing to this day. He's been married 53, 54 years. You want to know why I'm good at what I do when it comes to broadcasting? Or is it because I went to some broadcasting school? Or is it because I went to, you know, some radio school? No, it's because my father, and he though he made many mistakes on the surface, there are a lot of things that his intention safeguarded the future response to cultural issues by creating an atmosphere and developing me in the long term. In other words, you know, as parents, a lot of times we make a lot of mistakes, myself included. I'm included in this. We all included in this if we're parents, because we're changing. We're changing, and the children are developing, and we're changing because we're going somewhere we hadn't been. And a lot of times we make a lot of mistakes and a lot of mishaps because we didn't know. We didn't see the curveball coming. We were not aware of the changing culture, the changing dynamics, whatever the case may be. And so, but the intention of a parent, the intention means a lot. And the intention sometimes is not seen for decades. till the child's in his 20s, 30s. And the evolution of the child's development becomes more balanced, because not only does the parent realize that I'm disseminating my authority and I'm disseminating values, ethics, whether they be right or wrong is not what I'm talking about, but you're disseminating it anyway towards the child. The environment of the child is significant for the dissemination of values and ethics. And so, but the intention, the motive of your heart as a parent, the motive of my heart as a parent, the motive of our hearts as adults, as we do what we do with our kids, dictates what's going to come out in the wash 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years after they leave home. And sad to say, a lot of us have the wrong intentions. And I want to encourage you. I'm not saying that you're doing everything. We're not talking about parents who are doing everything right. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about what is your heart's intention towards your child. Not talking about what you meant to do. Now, I'm not talking about that either. I'm talking about what is your heart's intention. What is your heart's agenda for your child? Do you realize and understand and accept the fact that you have a constantly growing and developing organism in form of a child in front of you? And while that child may seem articulate, and while that child may seem advanced, and while that child may seem hardcore, if you will, make no mistake about it, it's still developing. Even some of the best of us as parents are fooled oftentimes when children are doing well in multiple various of areas. Multiple areas. What kind of statement is that? You know what I'm saying? I mean, come on, slow down, Marcus. But the point of the matter is that even the children that are doing well, advanced, articulate, well-mannered, your child is so well-mannered. I could do a show on that. You get a call from the teacher, want to have a conference. Get to the conference. Well, your child is so well-mannered and such a well-behaved child. Just have this one issue. For years I fell for that line. I was like, oh, okay, well, I got to get my child to perfection. Then I realized it's not the child. It's the teacher. Well, whoop-de-doo. A teacher that don't want to change. Because if you're teaching children, you got to change too. Because if you're with my child 8 to 9 hours a day, then you're a form of a parent. You're part of the village makeup. And you want the school system's rules and regulations and guidebooks to be the God of your school, and it's not going to work, because oftentimes, more than not, we are dealing with a multicultural situation in our schools, and a multi-changing region where people move in, move out, have jobs, and get laid off, unemployment. You know what I'm saying? The whole dynamics. And now you're going to hold my child hostage to what you don't want to be flexible in. And I'm supposed to take this good child who has maturated well, done well, got a great academic record, great behavior record, and make him perfect for you. Heck to the no, I won't do it. And I was tricked for many years about that. All adults teaching children, around children, raising children must change and adapt, that the child may develop. It's fairness to the child. It's for the development of the child. You don't answer that booty call because you want your child to develop appropriately. Listen, let me say a word about that. That once we have children, then we begin to give up things that they may have what I call a fair shot, a fair chance. Because you don't want to look back 10, 20, 30 years ago from now, and then your child is pointing a bony finger toward you because your intention was to have a great time fill your pockets full of loot, have everybody call your name, be accepted in the so-called hood beloved, the beloved of the hood, and your child develops to an adult that don't want to change, or that is so destitute that all he cries is for change, but he's gone too far perhaps. Parenting. Maybe that's what we should have told some of the teachers, is that you are a co-parent in the process of the development of my child. And I cannot, though I will support, I cannot give you all authority just because you have a guide, just because you have a manual, just because you have a school board, just because you have a board of education, because I, at the end of the day, am responsible for this child, and I'm responsible for that which I can see and that which I can't see, and it's a lot to manage for me. So I can't even accept that every time you call me up to the school that my child is in the wrong. I can't accept it. If I accept that, that's victimized thinking. You guys know what I think about that, where you succumb to every word that somebody says just because they think they're right. Changing adults give children a developing chance. And I'm going to tell you this. Whatever your issues are, they show up in your children. They can skip a generation. But whatever the issues you are facing as an adult, whatever you are struggling with, and those kids pick that up. They pick up the struggle. Mama don't have enough money to pay the bills. They pick that up. Why do you think that the single parent home is partially held together? Because those kids love their mother. And those kids, as they develop, have high sensitivities towards the emotional chaos that mother experiences. And so those kids, though they may not be acting right, they may not be doing everything right, you start talking about their mama, you're going to have a fight on your hands. I said all that to say that they pick up what you're going through. They pick up what they may not be able to describe it and put names to it and put a header on it and all that, but they know, they sense, because they're the youngest sensitivities in the room. They're fresh. Their blood is pure in the sense that it has not yet been contaminated with experience. And they're picking up. Even though you say go in the other room and watch TV and play video games, they know something wrong. You wonder why your male child is angry? Because they know that something is wrong. And a male child will become angry when he can't fix something. If you know anything about men, you know that men are achievement based. So the male child will, in his little development world, he's becoming achievement based, and he hears and he sees and he feels and he senses that something is wrong that he cannot fix. So he becomes angry. And in the anger that he doesn't know how to manage, talking about the angry male child, and in the anger that he doesn't know, and then coupled with the fact that they're siblings, and then coupled with the fact that there may not be any camaraderie in a male counterpart, such as a father or uncle or grandfather or something that, that close-knit male leadership, coupled with the fact that he may be a preteen or a teenager, coupled with the fact that he has cultural pressure from his peers, you talking about an atom bomb here. You're talking about a potential atom bomb here. You're talking nuclear. And girls on the other end have their issues in wanting to be loved and wanting to be accepted and wanting to be complimented. Because no matter how cute and how hard we try to make women to look, they still develop their confidence and their pride through relationships. It's funny how we try to, in our rap music, we try to make women, particularly minority women, look so hardcore, as if to say they still do not have a developmental track. Every child has a genetic, it's not the same, but every child has a genetic developmental track. And if you are the parent, the uncle, the auntie, the school teacher that is in charge of a very serious a block time in that child's developmental life, then by all means you must be an agent of change yourself, because the best of us still have the worst methods, the worst objectives, the worst outlook. The best of us. The best of us. So we got to encourage you to understand that a changing me is giving a license to our children to develop appropriately. It's not appropriate for some things that we allow our children to do. That's a whole nother show. It's not appropriate for a child to be calling you by your first name. It's not appropriate. If we don't teach children honor and respect, I don't know what in the world we're going to have. You got to remember, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, what are we going to have? Hey, Johnny, come over here. Excuse me? Did you just call me about, you just call you by the first name? Yeah, what's it to you? Huh? You know what I'm saying? I mean, what we allow in this culture, in this day and time, is absolutely unequivocally crazy. We've got to harness, pull back, and look at two factors. Am I evolving as an adult, whether I'm a teacher, whether I'm a parent? Because I think if you're a teacher, you're a co-parent. Am I evolving, or am I evolving, or am I causing roadblocks? Am I causing roadblocks? Am I causing roadblocks to the developmental track of the child? Am I causing roadblocks? I hope that you're not. But, we do it. If you're trying to be perfect, you're going to find out you're not. And that's okay. If you're trying to do it right, you're going to often do it wrong. And that's okay. But what really matters is that the intention of your change drives you from the inside out, and not the pressure of change. That's good too, driving you from the outside in. But we want to have the right intention. We want to understand that this child's chance depends on me. And sometimes I've found myself to ask questions, because parents, we act like we never did anything wrong when we were kids. And sometimes I ask myself a question, is it that bad? Because parenting is, for many, it's about control. I got to control the environment. I got to control the kids. And you can't control everything. You can control some things, but you can't control everything. But so often, more than not, when the kids begin to act up, we just have a fit about it. We have a fit about it. And sometimes we have to stop, and that's part of the changing you. Is it really that bad? Could I give a child a break? Is the child maturating in other areas where I could borrow from his strengths right now to cover him or her in her weakness? Are we humane about the parenting process? Or are we too entertaining about the process? Are we more engaging? Should we be more engaging? Are we aware of the developmental phases of the child? That's a good one right there. Are we aware of the developmental changes of the child? Or are we just pushing our demands and dictating and showing how large and in charge we are? And I'm going to buy my kids this, and I'm going to buy my kids that, and they're going to have everything they ever imagine. Okay, that'll work for a few years. But in the end, you got to be able to say, after that child is long gone from home, that experience changed me and developed them. Follow me on Spreaker, Twitter, Facebook. Don't forget the new website, www.sibnradio-by Select USA TV. Thank you so very much. Tell a friend.
You're listening to the sounds of your lifestyle improvement station.